The Adult Ballet Studio is a podcast featuring conversations with the empowering voices of the adult ballet community, a world where passion has no limits and dreams can take flight. My name's Elizabeth Blossfield, and I'm an adult ballet dancer and your host. Welcome to the studio. Hi everybody, and welcome back to the Adult Ballet Studio. We have such a fun guest in the studio who's doing great things for the adult ballet community. I was so excited to talk to her for this episode. Vanessa Woods is the owner and founder of Vitality and Motion and Vitality Ballet, and a former professional dancer with more than 2 decades of classical training. She trained at the Conservatory of Dance at SUNY Purchase, Princeton Ballet, Miami City Ballet School, and Steps on Broadway in New York City. She's performed with ballet companies around the country like Suzanne Farrell Ballet in Washington, D.C., Pennsylvania Ballet and Colorado Ballet, and she danced with the Saint Louis Ballet performing soloist and principal roles for 8 seasons. She was also on faculty with the Saint Louis Ballet School and has taught at other ballet schools across the country. She started Vitality Ballet in 2012 while still dancing with the Saint Louis Ballet, and also getting her master's. As a ballet podcast, we're no stranger to overachievers, and Vanessa is definitely one of them. She started the company as a way to encourage adults of all ages to study ballet and improve their health and wellness through intentional movement. Her mom, who's an occupational therapist, and Vanessa tells me still takes ballet classes in her 60s, collaborated with Vanessa to start this endeavor. Since then, Vitality Ballet has been offering classes exclusively online for adults of all ages, while Vitality in Motion, a second affiliated company, was born later to serve senior populations with ballet classes that cater to seniors 80 years old and up, and those who have mobility issues. I love that Vanessa is focusing on this population of adults in nursing homes and retirement communities, because as she talks about in this interview, seniors are often overlooked in ballet, and they shouldn't be, because ballet is for everybody. It was so great to talk to her about these 2 companies and what they're doing to bring ballet to everyone, her relationship with her mom, her dance career, and what it was like transitioning from performing on stage to becoming an entrepreneur. I had so many questions for her, and I loved our conversation and her spirit. I can't wait for you to hear the interview. Here it is. Hey, Vanessa. Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you, Elizabeth?
I'm good. It's so great to meet you.
Yes, you too. It's so nice to put that face to
Yeah,
to a name.
same. Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it.
The whole thing is really, the podcast is really neat. It's really cool that you're doing this.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I'm really excited to talk about what you're doing. I'm a big fan of your work at Vitality and Motion, so I can't wait to dig into it a little bit. But yeah, I was just kind of reading a little bit about you before this interview, and I noticed that you're originally from New Jersey. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I live in New Jersey now. What part are you from?
Oh, wow. Okay, so I'm more from South Jersey, so right outside of Philadelphia.
And where are you currently based?
I'm in St. Louis, Missouri.
In St. Louis. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, thanks again for taking the time. I really appreciate it. I know that, you founded Vitality in Motion, originally Vitality Ballet, and I was wondering if you could just start off kind of talking a little bit about the work that you do there and why it's important to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so Vitality in Motion. So that one originally started as Vitality Ballet, like you said, back in 2012 when I moved out to St. Louis to dance with St. Louis Ballet. And I was really I think the start behind it was kind of unique, but I feel like it speaks to the dancer's life is I was dancing during the day with a company, but it wasn't enough to truly live off of, which I think is a very traditional dancer's story. So I was doing, all the stuff from retail to restaurant work to babysitting to teach, everything. And it was just a very scattered life. And all I really wanted to do was focus on dancing. That was the whole reason I moved to the Midwest anyway. And so I was in a conversation with my mom, who is an occupational therapist. And we were talking about how just beneficial dance is and ballet is just so just important for everyone. And of course it's important for us. So we are taking some of her elements of physical therapy and bringing that into the dance. So she gave me the idea of what if you served an older adult population with ballet? and like made it accessible from a chair. So it got my wheels turning, did a ton of research, really dove in, and then Vitality in Motion was born. So then it was Vitality Ballet. We operated as Vitality Ballet till 2020, rebranded to Vitality in Motion, where we exclusively operate for our seniors as Vitality in Motion. And so we work with older adults, average age like 85. And then Vitality Ballet is now our adult ballet program that's for like all ages, like, 20 through 70, and everything in between.
Oh, okay, got it. So you're still running both programs, which I love, and it sort of encompasses all ages of adults, which is really cool. And I know you mentioned, so you offer all types of classes. I know on your website it says you have virtual and in person. So can you talk about the types of classes that you offer for, the 85 and older population, and then as well as to, adults through Vitality Ballet, and, how someone can get involved if they're interested?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Vitality in Motion kind of senior classes, our most popular programming that we do for those is actually in retirement communities. There's so many retirement communities, and when, adults move out of their home and then they move into these facilities, like a lot of times they really lose access to the arts. It was like one of those things where we just like, it's kind of like cut off to them. And so I wanted to like bridge that gap and have this population that oftentimes like really has patronized the arts and really enjoys the arts. And I wanted to make sure that was still accessible into these retirement communities. Not only like for the beauty and the stimulation and the joy, of course, of the music and the movement, but like also like the physical wellness of it, like just getting your body moving and stretching and working on the range of motion, like all the things that as dancers, we know like it does that, because that's like what we feel every day as a dancer doing these things. So I wanted to make sure that that was accessible. So those programs are primarily done in these retirement communities, but we also offer some like in the community, just depending on where we are. So currently, as of now, we're located in St. Louis, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas and Missouri, and then Phoenix, Arizona. So those are the areas we're starting now, and then we bring dancers on to facilitate these programming with us. And then Vitality Ballet, those classes are done online. And so anyone can join. I like love the convenience factor now as a mom, like being able to just like switch hats and like be like, now I get to be a dancer right from home really quickly. I think there's just something that's like really built in now, especially post-COVID, with like the just convenience of being able to be a dancer and be a ballerina anywhere and not having to like assume the role of being in a traditional space and, put the hair up in a tight bun and like drive your car and park early and get there and warm up for 35 minutes. And like, I just think that we're adults that are really busy, and I want ballet to be accessible to everyone, kind of no matter what stage they are in their life.
And I love the work that you're doing. And I think you're right. If there's anything that came out of the pandemic that was slightly good, it was the way that it sort of opened us up to new creative ways of thinking, and especially in the dance world, to be able to kind of join a ballet class, from wherever you are, whatever stage in your life you are. And so I think that's great that you're facilitating that, through Vitality Ballet for adults. And I know you mentioned that, so you were dancing with the St. Louis Ballet, and you were kind of doing all these other things. You were getting a degree in marketing from Washington University through the night program. You were launching this company. It sounds like you were multitasking, to the fullest. So where did your drive and motivation come from, and how has that sort of served you in and out of the dance studio?
Yeah, it's such a good question, because I feel like dancers are just like such driven people, right? Like in order to like make our bodies do like what we have to make them do, and then even like just the like mental like struggle of being a dancer and like being told no your whole life, and like really trying to pursue like your passion and then not knowing if you'll ever get there. Like I just think it's like it's a really like tough life, and so you have to have like such a resolve like from the beginning. And I know that that was one of my skills. Like, I didn't always have the perfect turnout or the best feet or like, but I was very determined, like really hard worker, and I knew like very goal oriented. So I think those helped me to stay like really focused as a dancer. So I really was interested in the idea of like being able to continue my life as an artist outside of the studio as well, because like like, I don't know, if you're not called to rehearsal that day, or like you're not cast as much in that piece, and then you're like, oh darn, like I'm not doing as much. Like I always wanted to do more as a dancer when I was in the studio. So this was a way to kind of continue my like passion for the arts, and then that sharing of it and teaching others. So I really enjoyed that aspect of making dance accessible to these older adults who are oftentimes like, no one's gonna think someone in their 80s or 90s, could take a ballet class. And then of course, like helping adults at any stage in their life. You know, if they were like, oh, I used to dance in college and I loved it and I stopped, and like, oh, okay, coming back, or I had kids and that's just, you know, I can't do that. I don't have time, or I had hip surgery and it kind of ruined my dancing. Like, it's like all this stuff, you know, or even just someone that's like, I've always been intrigued by ballet and like I just never felt like I could do it. And it's like, okay, I love all those different things, and like I'm so passionate about like getting them and pulling them into the ballet fold. Like, all right, come on in, here we go. Like, I think that's just so exciting.
Yeah, me too. I think that's great. And, I've had those conversations with other adults too, where they think, they're interested in ballet, they don't know how to get started, or, there are some barriers to entry that they just can't seem to get past. So I think that's great what you're doing. And you mentioned something key too that a lot of people don't think of, 80, 90-year-olds as being able to do ballet. And you've mentioned before in interviews that you feel like that population has been sort of overlooked by the ballet community. So I was curious what you've observed there, some of the challenges and the work that you're doing to sort of change that with Vitality and Motion.
Yeah. So like one of the things I think is so fascinating is like as dancers, like movement's like very intuitive for us. Like it's like, and it's like we don't really realize that because that's just like who we are. Like we started dancing and then it's just like it's like more built into our body. And so when we're working with older populations, like that kind of skill, like even just coordination, just naturally for all of us, like starts to decline. And so then when I'm training dancers, because like I'm now bringing in our talent and then that works with us and teaches with Vitality and Motion, like it's a big learning curve to figure out like, okay, so what is like the pacing to really set an older adult up for success to take a dance class and really make it fun and engaging and not boring, but like really make it something that they can do. So it's not like, oh my gosh, like 4 tendues releve and arm in. Oh, like, oh my gosh, like that's so much movement and counting. And like, so it's like, it's really eye-opening, I think, how like simple and like clean and just like, I don't know, just like the simplicity of it, but how even that is very challenging for an older adult because it's not like normal to move in a pattern. And so it's really engaging your brain in such a different way, right? Like, because that's essentially what we do as dancers, right? Like we're all about like choreography. So like, so how do we engage the brain in a different way as we age? And then infuse the element of the music, the choreography, the mobility. Like it's like this, multifaceted element. And then that's why I think people that are older like really connect with it. I mean, obviously, I think all ages connect with it, but I think that older adult population, like oftentimes is the population that's like, I don't think that I'm going to be serving a dance class, from my wheelchair. And those populations are really fun to make it accessible to.
I think this is so interesting. I was reading another interview that you did where you were talking about just how that type of movement affects the brain. And you mentioned that, especially with seniors who are struggling with dementia or Alzheimer's, sometimes the music or specific movements can unlock memories. And that's really cool to experience. So how have you seen this work that you're doing kind of help with the aging process or make it a little bit easier for some of these seniors that you're working with?
Yeah, I think it like combined like from music perspective, like even just hearing music, right? If we're working with someone with dementia or Alzheimer's, or even just like someone who hasn't listened to music in a while, we like see such like a light in their faces when they just start to hear this music. So whether it's beautiful classical music or ballet music, or like music from their generation, like that really touches on something. And then when you add like the movement that's really specifically like set to the choreography, like the beat of the music. So like truly like dancing choreography, right? Like that is where I feel like there's this aha moment with older adults because, and again, with all ages, because like when you get to move your body to music with synchrony of others, like the corps de ballet effect, it's like so impactful for your physical and like mental health. It's really fun to see these older adults kind of get to experience that often for the first time in their life.
I'm curious with the work that you're doing now with seniors who have mobility challenges. Have you seen some of that intentional movement kind of help them develop more confidence in their body or discover new creative ways of being in motion?
Yeah, absolutely. Like it is really fascinating to see like in like Parkinson's community, like we work with them as well. And like, yeah, just to see how people kind of have this rediscovery for like what I can do. I'm all about like like kind of in that instance, like celebrating like what you can do, right? It's so easy to get down on ourselves, right? At any age of like, oh, my leg doesn't go so high anymore. Like I used to be able to go on points, or, like, oh, now my knees don't go into grand plie. It's like that focus on like those negative. And I love the shift for all age groups with Vitality Ballet and Vitality Motion of like, no, 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 let's just celebrate what we can do. Let's not worry about what we can't do. Not, not to say that it's not there, but that like that's not going to be our focus. Let's make this a positive experience because there's so many things that you can do. And so that's where I really like to like have the focus of both of those companies. Like, let's make the dancers that are in this place like really feel good about what their body is able to do.
Yeah, I love that. And I love your focus on intentional movement too, because it's so true as dancers. We just get so inside our heads about, the things that we can't do or the things that we're struggling with. And even now in my 30s, I've been dancing my whole life and I notice, some things are so much harder and I get so down on myself sometimes. So how do you sort of encourage the adults that you're working with to work through some of that self-doubt or some of that negativity and, kind of what should their mental process look like in working through that in a ballet class?
Yeah, I like my big thing is like really kind of like, because as dancers, like if you ever dance before and then you're coming back into dance, and then like, of course, it feels different, right? Like, so I'm very big on like kind of moving aside from what it used to feel like, that muscle memory. Like, because I like remember like doing a triple, or like I remember like getting a leg, like it's just, it doesn't happen anymore. It's not there. And so it's like, it's just kind of like enjoying that memory for what it was, and like really embracing that beautiful 45-degree leg. Beautiful. Gorgeous. We're going to turn it out. It's going to feel great. It's going to feel different. This is the new normal. So it doesn't mean we can't push ourselves. It doesn't mean that we have to like settle for a half pirouette and then like say that's all it's going to be. But that's the new normal, and establishing it and like celebrating in that, and being okay, because it's really hard to see your body decline, whether it's, going from being in your 20s to now your 40s, or, being in your 60s to now your 80s, and like kind of feeling that like, oh, that almost like a disappointment in yourself. But it's like, we're not doing that. The celebration is really where you should be, because if you are taking a dance class at any point in your life, like you should already be patting yourself on the back, because it's not easy and it's so good for you.
Yeah, it is. Ballet is so hard. It's really good for you. And celebrating where you are at each stage in your life is so important. I think that's great advice. And, it sometimes, it doesn't matter how high the leg is because the artistry and the technique and just the passion is there. So I think, that's great encouragement for adults at any stage. And, also I'm sure you work with a lot of adults, and, any adult who's in a ballet class, some of them are at the beginning stage. Maybe they haven't tried a ballet class before, or they've only done it a handful of times, when they were young. So, for anyone who's sort of nervous about taking that first step, entering a ballet class for the first time, are there any steps that they can take, or, what should they look for in a studio, or how can they sort of, advocate for themselves in their training?
Yeah. So I am all about like finding a place that obviously feel really welcome, right? You want to feel like it's a really good fit. I mean, every studio has like a different kind of like vibe. And so some are like super casual and just like you can come in your hair in a ponytail, you can wear your yoga pants, doesn't matter. And other places are going to be more like, no, we want you to wear in pink tights. So, you can wear a little skirt, but like each studio has their vibe. So you want to find somewhere that just feels really comfortable for you and in your body. That's one thing with like Vitality Ballet. Like I used to love leotards and tights. Like I loved it. And now like I don't feel super comfortable wearing leotard and tights anymore. Like every now and then, but it just like isn't where my body wants to be. And so I really invite dancers to wear what they want to wear, right? Like it's okay if you want to wear leotard tights, go for it. But if you feel like that's like sweatpants, or feel just more comfortable, and some socks, like I think it's important to just create an environment where you feel comfortable. So looking for that, looking for an instructor that's going to be really open to giving you the push that you need, but also really the understanding of like, if a grand plie is going to really hurt arthritis in your knee, or that's just not an option for you, like not pushing you to hurt yourself. Because I think dancers are always going to push, and like they're going to see the people around you and be like, oh, I want to jump higher, I want to do this, I'll just do a little petit allegro. I know I'm not supposed to do any, but I'll just do a little. And it's like, no, you have to be able to find a studio and an instructor where you will be able to know where your limits are in a positive way so that you can continue dancing and not have that one great class where you're like, oh, perfect. I did everything, but now I actually have to take the next 3 weeks off because I hurt everything. So
Right.
it's like, right. I mean, I think we're all like, it's like that one step forward, two step back kind of philosophy as in like recovering from injuries or things like that. So I think when you're looking for a dance studio and an instructor and a space to jump into dance, like just really finding somewhere that's going to be a good fit for you. The other thing I always talk about when I have dancers coming in is like when you're very new to dance, I love to think about ballet as like a layer cake and like just picking one layer. And so maybe that layer is really just holding your hand on your hip and like really focusing on the articulation of your feet because it's really hard to like make your foot point and come in and out and figure out which direction. So maybe that's the layer. Or maybe that layer is just going to be holding the arm in second, like figuring out what muscles that is and like how to hold that and kind of not focusing on the crazy feet. Maybe you're just doing it halftime. Like, and I think that's like part of the fun to me at least is like adding all those layers all these years because like it's never done. So you're like, oh, now I've done my head. Oh my goodness, that's an extra layer. Like, so I think that finding a place too and an instructor that's going to be able to like give you the layers for the multiple people. So some layer dancers are going to be like, all right, I need épaulement, I need the arms, I need full port de bras, I need to correct my fingertips. I like want the detail work. And then other people are going to be like, I'm just trying to figure out tendus versus dégagés. Like, what is the difference? So it's like making sure to figure out like where everyone is and then give everyone a class that's going to best suit their level.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a good visual thinking of ballet as a layer cake because there's so much to ballet and it's one of those things where you're almost never done training. You can always be improving. So that helps to sort of break it down and not make it feel so overwhelming. And I know that, we talked about your advice for students entering the studio maybe for the first time, but you've taught adults as well as younger students. And I'm curious from the instructor side, with your experience, what would be your advice to dance teachers and instructors about how they can build an inclusive environment, and sort of encourage dancers at any age or at any place, within their ballet journey?
When we're teaching young kids, like we're very regimented, right? There's like a whole process. And I always think like when I am teaching my kids, I don't expect that my children are all trying to like become professionals because there's so much value to taking dance. But like I am going to teach like proper technique. Like I'm going to make everyone know when they go off into the world, like exactly that technique. And there's a rigor with that. But then when you go into teaching adults, like I really find that it's very helpful to have like a different perspective. And like what I mean by that is like I find that personally I have to take a little bit of the hat off that I would train like a younger student and like really have like a much more, I don't know if it's like just understanding kind of philosophy, but like if you're doing a petit allegro, like that's really hard for an older adult. Like, I mean, it doesn't mean they can't do it because like I still love doing it, but like that's really hard and not everyone can have that impact. Or like doing a ton of stuff up on releve. Like some people have like injuries to the balls of their feet and that could cause them other like injuries or like if they have like there's just so many shoulder impingement issues like people start to like so just there's like a lot of different things that I like to think about when I'm working with all ages like that 40 plus or 50 plus population where it's like things are just going to feel different than they did when you were in a classroom full of teenagers. And I want people to feel the sense of like, you can still do it. It's still for you. Don't worry. It's okay. If you feel that pain, that's okay. There's other options. Maybe your fifth is not going to be all the way up there. Maybe it's going to be here. Maybe you're going to just do your arm in second. Like there are other options and it's okay to give those options or it's okay to sit out and not do the petit allegro or you might do a lower impact changement exercise. Maybe you're not going to get all the way up in there, but you still want that slight low impact. Like, and it took me a minute to like figure out what that looks like in my teaching. But I think that once like I've arrived for both of my companies, like that is what helps keep people coming into the door for ballet because it's like if they take that one class and they're like, it really hurt my knees. Like we did a ton of pliés, like a ton of grand pliés, and we came in center and we did a grand plié and center adagio. Like it's just that enough negative reinforcement in their brain. They're like, I don't think I can do this. And then they don't come back. And so I love the idea of being like, It's okay. You do not need to do these things, like, because there's other ways that we can achieve that and still keep you dancing.
That's great advice for instructors to sort of adjust, based on the skill level, based on the age, and based on each individual student as well. That's great advice. And, we've talked a lot about your work as a business owner and as an instructor, but I want to kind of go back to the beginning and talk a little bit about your own journey with ballet and your career as a professional dancer. So I was curious, what was the point when you were first introduced to ballet, or when did you decide to start studying it? Because I know you started pretty young when you were around 5 years old, if that's right.
Yeah, I was in Philadelphia, and I was really a very energetic child. This is what I'm told, like probably like bouncing off the walls, probably annoying my parents so much. And so there was a small dance studio in Philadelphia, like down the street. And so I think they just walked me over. The downstairs was a karate studio, so my brother was taking karate, and then they would walk me upstairs, and there was a
Oh,
ballet studio.
fun.
So I was like, so cute, get that energy out. And then it was around 10 years old. I was doing Nutcracker. I was not cast as Clara. I was heartbroken. All my friends were. And I was actually cast as the prince. I was a boy. I was like, because I was always tall, always tall. And so that made it really hard. But it was that role that I was kind of like, wait a second, hold on, this second act pantomime here. There's something to this. I like this. Um, and then that was kind of when I decided, like, I think I really want to be a ballet dancer.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that story. And I know you've had a successful career as a professional ballerina for many, many years. You danced with the St. Louis Ballet and Colorado Ballet and other ballet companies as well. So what can you share about dancing professionally? What were some of your favorite moments or favorite memories from your career?
Yeah, oh, I loved dancing. A lot of George Balanchine works were my absolute favorite. It was just so magical to get to dance those ballets. So I danced with Suzanne Farrell Ballet for a little bit in Washington, D.C., and just like being in a room with just like this legend in ballet was just so inspiring. And the classes were so hard. Oh my God, they were so hard. And it was very humbling. I loved like being a part of the process of like putting on a ballet. So like I remember in Colorado Ballet we did like Le Corsaire and we did Giselle, and like the detail work of being in the corps de ballet was so cool. Just like I remember one rehearsal we were it was this one. This was and we were talking about like our fingers, like.
Oh, wow. So beautiful.
And it was like, I remember literally in that rehearsal, like they were talking about like everyone's fingers have to look a certain way. Like, so it's so cool because as an audience member, you probably wouldn't think about like the detail work that goes into, putting on a ballet. And then I loved dancing, like Western Symphony was one of the ones I really loved doing, and Serenade with St. Louis Ballet. It just, yeah, getting to perform some of these iconic ballets was really like I feel very lucky.
Yeah, that's amazing. Serenade is one of my favorites. So to actually be a part of it on stage sounds incredible.
I still cry when I see it, like
I
anywhere,
know.
like so beautiful.
I know it's a gorgeous ballet. And I love what you mentioned about the detail work of the corps de ballet, because whenever I've never been a professional dancer on stage like that, but whenever I go see, ballets, I always focus on the corps. I love to pick out different corps members and just kind of watch their movements. It's so intricate and so detailed, as you said, and it just makes everything, it elevates everything in the production, I think. I'm curious as well, on the other side of it, were there any challenges or difficulties that you had to overcome with professional life? And any, advice or lessons that you would pass on? I know that most of our audience is, older adult dancers, but to any younger dancers who are sort of beginning that journey, what would you say to them?
Yeah. Oh man, there was so many challenges as a dancer. Like my biggest thing that I always say, and I remember this being told to me specifically at Miami City Ballet. I was training there, and I remember like it was told to us then, but you're so young at the time. We're like, okay, that's fine. Like in one ear, not the other. But I remember it is like just like it's very dramatic being in a ballet company. It's like there's a lot of emotions, there's a lot of ups and downs, and it can get like really negative sometimes just because it is like it's such a short life as a dancer and you're like desperate to perform, and there's super high highs and then there's really low lows. But I think like I always like to remind younger dancers now to just truly like embrace it and like live in that moment because it's so short. Like it's so short and then it's done. And then you're like, and then I mean, it's literally like you can't really go back to that. Like that life is done. And it's going to be a memory that you look back on and then cherish those times. So it's kind of like just being aware that there's going to be times where you're not cast in a show that you feel like you should have, or you get injured right before, or you get sick right before opening night, or like, all these things that everyone goes through when you're a dancer. And I think it's just important to remind yourself, like, it's a short life. And so you have to have like a positivity and a grace with it to enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Enjoy it while it lasts and embrace each moment as it comes. I think, for professional dancers and also for, adults in class at each stage of their lives, just embrace the moment that you're in now and, the things that you're able to do because it'll always change. I know that you also have a really great relationship with your mom, who's an occupational therapist, and you've worked together for a long time. So I was curious if you could talk about that, how she sort of encouraged you to pursue ballet and also how you ended up working together with Vitality and Motion.
Yeah, oh my goodness. My mom is incredible. She still takes ballet class with my Vitality Ballet like every week. She's like our like number one student. It's amazing. She's in her like mid to late 60s. She's phenomenal. And she wasn't a dancer. Like this was not her life. Like
That's
yeah,
awesome.
right? I'm so inspired that I'm just like, okay, note to self, this is what I need to do. Just write down exactly what she's doing so that I can do that when I'm older. Yeah, like she's just always been really encouraging because I can't imagine being like a parent of someone trying to be a dancer. Like now as a parent myself, like I feel like it would be really hard to see some of the struggles that you would watch your child go through with trying to get into such a like a competitive field. So I think she has always encouraged me to kind of think outside the box, and like kind of embrace, like, I remember she said, like, you're focusing on so many other things, like when you're not dancing, like waiting tables or like doing childcare or nannying or like just all I'm trying to remember all the jobs at this point. And it was like she kind of encouraged me like take a moment here and step back. Like what is all the expertise that you've been working on like since you were 5? Like you have so many years of like teaching and training and coach, like all this like information. Like how can you use this information and like serve others with it? And that was like really good advice because I did have all this information and like part of our job as dancers is to help like pass it on. And so that was where I like her encouragement of like, okay, let's work with a population that maybe isn't served through dance. What could that look like? And so that got me thinking about that older adults who I already really enjoyed working with seniors. And then she also really helped to encourage me to continue Vitality Ballet, the adult ballet program, because she always had said the same, like, there's so many adults out there who have always been so intrigued by ballet and just have never felt like it was an inclusive space for them to be a part of it. And so her advice in both like realms with the seniors and just with adults looking to dance, it was really helpful. And I think she thinks about things too from a occupational therapy standpoint of like, well, the body needs to move, right? We know a body in motion stays in motion. So like, how do we make that movement fun and meaningful and engaging so people really want to facilitate like their body and continuing moving?
I love hearing about your relationship with your mom and how this all sort of came together. And she sounds amazing. I love that she's still taking classes, in her 60s. That's definitely something to aspire to. So that's awesome. And, I'm curious that as you kind of conceptualized creating Vitality Ballet and Vitality in Motion, what was the transition like from performing on stage to being basically a business owner? Was there anything that translated from your life as a professional dancer to the world of entrepreneurship, or was it something completely new?
Oh, great question. Yeah. So like, man, I think that like I had been like slowly building some skills maybe as a dancer and like maybe not really realizing it because this was not necessarily where I thought I was going to go with my career after dancing. But I think that like being able to like really stay organized, being really focused, like, because you kind of have to wear different hats, like any entrepreneur. But I remember being a dancer, like, okay, company class is at this time, we're going to do this. Then my first rehearsal, is not till 1. So I'm going to have this little gap here. So I'm going to actually bring my laptop and I'm going to do some emails, or I'm going to work on some client stuff, or I'm going to schedule some more communities, and like really just being like driven and like organized with your time. Because I do think that, like, as a dancer, you get really like sucked into the world in a good way and exactly how you should be, which I was totally in. Like, I was just fully engaged in it. But then also, like, I really wanted to make sure that I was somehow like preparing for what a life after dance could look like. That was always important to me, just because, knock on wood, which I did, I like, if you got injured, like, then what do you do? I just like never wanted to be stuck. That was always something that was really important to me. So I think that, like, having this drive, having this understanding that, like, there's other skills that I'm kind of curious about, like what I could do with them, or like how could I learn more about other things. So when I was in school, and then ballet companies are off for the summer, I did a bunch of internships. I think I did like 3 or so. And like some of them were in advertising agencies. One of them was like with a larger non-for-profit arts organization. And like I really kind of like put myself into these like different scenarios. Like, totally, I remember feeling like a fish out of water. I was like, what am I doing? Like, I do not understand any of this. This is like so above, like, I don't know, just where I was in my life. Like, I was even just mentally still like, I'm in a dance studio. Why am I not wearing a leotard? And now I'm in like a blazer and like a, like a business outfit. But I really felt like it was like kind of those moments where I pushed myself from being a dancer to like being okay with trying something else, giving myself permission to be like, it's okay to just not be very good at it, or learn and maybe actually be really good at it. So I think that's something that dancers can definitely do at any point in their life, to be, pulling in different skill sets. And I did 1 year in a marketing advertising agency right after retiring from ballet. And I think that was also helpful in just developing some new skills and confidence to take, the ballet and the discipline and the focus and the drive, and then some of the more formal like training that I learned like on the scene, and kind of merge them together, as a entrepreneur. And I'm always still learning every day.
Every day, yes, there's always something new. No, but that's great. It sounds like you took a lot of initiative to kind of decide what your life is going to be like after dance. And I think this is so interesting because I've heard other dancers talk about this before too, especially when you deal with an injury that kind of, ends your career maybe a little earlier than expected, where it's like almost this identity crisis of, who am I outside of ballet, or who am I outside of dance? And I was wondering, because I know you dealt with an injury as well, and it sounds like you were sort of prepared, ahead of time, kind of thinking about what your career is going to be like down the road once you retired from performing. But what was that process like of kind of working through some of those mental hurdles? Is that something that you struggled with, or, what did you learn from that?
Yeah, it was such a struggle. Oh my goodness. I still like laugh thinking about it. My physical therapist at the time that worked with the ballet. He always joked like part of his job, like working with artists, is like not only just physical rehab, it is mental. Like he would always say, like every dancer, because you're just like caught in this in between limbo land of like, when will my body get better? I'm desperate to get back on stage, desperate to get back to dancing. Like it was the only thing I could think about. But then like my injury just was not getting better. It was just constantly like one step forward, one step back. Well, like no matter what, I was doing everything possible. And I just couldn't get past it, that injury. So like the mental struggle was really like, I think most dancers would agree, like any stage in life is like one of the biggest things, because you're just frustrated and you're feeling like just impatient, and like just wondering like why isn't this better? Like I'm doing all this stuff. So I think that when I did finally have to, like, I kind of joke like it's like pulling the plug on the ballet. That's what it felt like, because I tried for so long to get back to where I needed to be, and it just wasn't sustainable. So like when I did kind of like jump into this other like career track, it definitely felt like just such a, like almost like I was watching myself. Like, who is that girl in there? Like going into that office and sitting in that desk and like going to these business meetings where like just a few months ago, like none of my coworkers would really understand. Like I was going to a ballet studio in a pink tights and like a leotard and putting on point shoes. So it was definitely like a big identity crisis, and it was ultimately not like a good fit for me because I didn't like sitting at my desk all day. I hated that I was so distant from the art form. Like, and I've heard this from other dancers too, that like retire and if they go into something else, like you just kind of feel like you're like waving to all these years of ballet and dance and arts like exposure, and then you're just kind of like no longer a part of it. And that just wasn't ultimately a good fit for me.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that because I know that's such a struggle for so many dancers, as you said. And I think there's a lot to be said for feeling sort of disconnected from the art form and kind of, working through those mental barriers of, what does, this has been a part of my life for so long. What does my life look like now that things are changing? So, and I know there are, so many barriers to entry in ballet, and I'm glad that things are sort of opening up. The work that you're doing at Vitality and Motion is helping to open things up. But I'm curious, what you think still needs to change about the world of ballet to make it more inclusive and how you're hoping to contribute to those changes as, someone who is a high-level dancer and a successful, business owner within the field of ballet and dance.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, ballet, I think like you said, it's a little bit behind and we're pushing it forward and we're bringing it to where it needs to be. Ballet has always had like a very like specific kind of like standard, I think, for like this is how it has to look and this is how you have to dress and this is how it has to be. And like I think that we're changing that and like we're making ballet something that everyone can connect to so that it feels like everyone can be a part of the ballet world. And I think that's really special. Like it doesn't have to be like an elite art form. In fact, it's more exciting when more people can feel involved with it. And I think it also brings new patrons into the art form, which I'm also really passionate about. Like who is the next generation of arts supporters, right? Who are going to be the people buying the tickets and going to support the arts. And so if we can encourage more curiosity for people to be interested in maybe taking a class or going to see a ballet and really making it feel like this is for everyone, I think that's going to be ultimately really good for the ballet art form as well.
Yeah, that's so important. I really hope for those changes to continue. And, thank you for the work that you're doing to contribute to all of those changes in the industry and the art form. And I'm just curious, what's next for Vitality Ballet? What's next for Vitality in Motion? What goals do you have for the companies in the future?
Yeah. So Vitality in Motion. So that's my senior company. And my goal with that is I love expanding to new areas. So we're just expanding to Phoenix and it's really exciting for me because I get to talk with all these dancers all over. So like we call them teaching artists and it's really exciting just to like meet people out there and like see where they are in their life and like find people that really connect with the mission of like making dance accessible to older adults. I know it's not for everyone, but there's so many artists out there that are really passionate about serving others. And so if anyone is listening to this and they're interested in that, and that just really speaks to them, like I'm always looking for just people that have like, I call it unicorns. Like they have to love seniors. They have to really have the patience and the kindness to be interested in serving others through their art form, have like the personality to make it fun and inviting and friendly and encouraging to our older adult populations. But my goal with that company is to really continue to expand our programs, get seniors, all over accessibility to the dance world in their retirement community. And for Vitality Ballet, I really would love to invite more dancers from all walks of life, all parts of their dance journey, from people who have just never even thought they could be exposed to dance, or people that maybe used to dance. I always hear the used to dance, oh, I miss it so much. Like come back, try it. Like it's a beautiful thing that can really enhance your life. And so I am really hoping to continue building that community online and make people feel encouraged that you can take ballet online and it really can be a very fulfilling process for you. You don't have to worry about driving or wearing a mask or, getting there early and avoiding traffic or childcare pickup or like just all these barriers that make it harder for adults to get into the classroom. Because I know I feel that too. Like there's just so many layers now. If I want to go take class and I'm like, okay, well, there's actually a lot I can do right here. You don't need to have a bar. You can use a chair. But I'm really hoping to continue, really helping people through the new year, like get themselves into a dance class and hopefully fall in love too.
Oh, that's exciting. Well, I can't wait to see what's next. And yeah, we'll definitely include links to your websites in the show notes. So hopefully anyone who's listening will check it out and see how they can get more involved. And I know we're coming toward the end of our time. We talked at the beginning about how hard Petit Allegro is, but we do have a section called Petit Allegro. I don't think it's as hard. It's just kind of fun, like rapid fire questions, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what's the one item that you have to have in your dance bag at every class or rehearsal, whether you're, dancing or teaching?
Ooh, oh, I have to have a yoga block. It's probably like right by my feet as we're talking. Yes, I have to have a yoga block. Always, always. I had it with me constantly, everything I did in ballet. And it's because I stand on the edge of it and I use it to stretch my calves out.
Oh,
It
that's
goes
such
to
a good stretch.
everywhere. Life changer. So helpful. So grab one like anywhere you have them. I swear it's like right under here, under my stuff. And like right before I go live on to teach, I'm like standing on it, stretching out my calves. So that's a big one.
That's amazing. Yeah, those are so important. I have one around here somewhere too. That's
Yeah.
awesome. When you're dancing professionally, did you have a favorite role or a favorite ballet to dance?
Yeah, that was, oh gosh. Well, I would say, yeah, it was probably, you gotta go with Serenade. I mean, I know that's a boring one now because, but like, I mean, not boring, obviously, but like, it's just so beautiful. So I'll go with George Balanchine's Serenade.
Yeah, that's a gorgeous pick, definitely. And do you have any funny backstage memories that you can share from when you were performing?
Oh my gosh, I always think about the one time dancing Romeo and Juliet, and it was like I was dancing one of the friends. There was only like three of us, and I missed my entrance, and it was like
Oh
so
no.
stupid. Like I was like it was like a reprise, and like you would like walk on, and like the other girls went on, and I don't even know what I was doing. Like I was just like do 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 do, like which is not like me. I was like really focused. Oh my God. I mean, now I can look back and laugh, but man, missing your entrance and then being backstage being like, oh my God, how am I gonna get on stage?
The
Yeah, like
stress.
find a creative way to just like run on. Like, oh man. Again, I can laugh now and I'm sure I was crying then.
Yeah, so stressful, but it is a good memory for sure. And are there any styles of dance or any other sports that you haven't tried but would like to at some point?
Oh, good question. Yeah. I mean, I always like tap dancing. I am getting really into Latin dancing now. So I'm like dancing twice a week and learning like salsa and bachata. And it's like so different. And I really enjoy like I'm really enjoying it. Like I feel like as a dancer, like there's a lot of the ballet things that translate over, but I just needed an outlet for me to like connect with music and movement in a different way. And this is like a way for me to keep dancing, but in a totally different way. And so it's like my Vanessa time. So I'm really getting interested in like the Latin dancing.
Oh, that's so fun. Yeah, I love Latin dancing. It's so high energy, so fun. It's a great community too. That's awesome. In a perfect world, what would ballet look like or what would you want it to be?
Oh wow. Yeah, I think in a perfect world, like ballet would feel like something that I think everyone has a better just like understanding and like knows more about. Like I always think about like football, very mainstream, everyone knows it, like some sense of it. Like I don't watch it, but of course I know about like but ballet still has like such a like a mystique to it, which I think is exciting, but I would love it to feel more like just inclusive that more people knew about it. It was more well like known and supported and like people just had a better like understanding of it so that it felt like something that everyone can enjoy. And so I'm hoping that that will continue, even though I know it's a tough one.
It is tough, but I hope for that too. And I think that you're contributing to those changes just by democratizing ballet to more, adults and more people through Vitality Ballet and Vitality in Motion. So thank you again for the work that you're doing. And, where can people find you on social media or on your website if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, so they can connect me. So the website, the contact me area, that will come right to me. So I will always respond there. On Instagram and on Facebook, if they send a message. Yeah, I mean, anyway, any of those channels, I'm the one that's looking at them. So I'll be happy to respond to anyone and connect and share any information or just tips if anyone's looking.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. Yeah, and we'll include links to your website and to your Instagram in the show notes so people can easily contact you. And thank you again so much for taking the time to speak with me. It's been so great to connect with you and learn more about what you're doing.
Thank you so much. It was so great to connect with you. You have such great questions, and I just love your passion comes through too. So thank you for
Oh,
doing that.
thank you so much. I appreciate it. Vanessa was so warm and so fun to talk to. I loved what she said about retiring from performing, but not wanting to feel too distant from the art form. I think everybody who loves ballet would agree that once the bug bites you, you have to find a way to keep it in your life. And she did. She's doing such amazing things as a business owner and a ballet instructor. The arts are so important for physical, emotional, and mental well-being, as everyone listening to this podcast knows, I'm sure. And I love the work Vanessa is doing to encourage adults of all ages to discover or return to ballet, especially seniors. I hope you enjoyed her interview, and we have another exciting guest for our next episode on March 5th. I'm such a huge fan of this person's work, and I can't wait to introduce you. In the meantime, happy dancing and see you at the bar.